I think hiding in plain sight is a beautiful thing. My name is Lisa Gamble. I work with radio as an art form, as a way to interact with the community as my art. I use radio. I do 2 or 3 things with radios. I'm pretty obsessed with them. I love that I use radio as a PA system. I use it as a means to overtake airwaves that are generally reserved for larger corporate entities. It's a great empowering thing to be able to hijack something that traditionally isn't used for, truly used for the community, and take it on to use it for my own purposes, or the purposes of performance and art. I think my main gig has always been a project called Field Trip. Attach a small FM transmitter, goes about 2 kilometers, to my body. On the FM spectrum, I can transmit from like 87 to like 100, and whenever it ends, I can just choose that. So if I want, I can transmit right over top of Virgin Radio, kind of erase it for a little bit anyways. My range is much stronger if I don't transmit over Virgin Radio. But it is very empowering to just be able to overtake the airwaves periodically. It's just like an act of resistance. It's an act of corporate resistance for me, and a way to express my artistic inclinations to improvise with electronic sound is that it's mobile. I can take it anywhere. As long as you have a radio, you can show up and participate and hear what I'm doing. I can overtake corporate airwaves if I feel like it. It works everywhere. I thought there would be a lot of limitations with transmission, that I'm not bumping into it. In fact, the quieter the airwaves, the better I transmit. So going underground, into the subway system, which is one of the first performances I did, was super empowering, because there's actually no radio down there usually, and then I was able to transmit my broadcast, guerrilla style, illegal broadcast. It's also an act of sharing some technology that's been around for a long time, and creating a space where we can talk about transmission, when ultimately people don't see it as a tangible thing that they can hold and touch and participate in and interact with on a day-to-day. It's actually just an $80 Amazon purchase. A small transmitter is not so expensive. I can use transmission in performance and in installations and in art that I do. Then people can be aware that it exists, just in case they might want to utilize it for a utilitarian purpose of, community communication, or whatever your heart desires. People have asked and are curious about, it's how do I know how to transmit over these mainstream frequencies if I want? The answer to that question is very technical. The transmitter itself allows me to just dial in whatever radio station I want. I test it plugging in an iPod or my sound equipment, whatever I want. I plug it in a little preamp so I can control the volume. I find it works best if I go through a mixing board. Throw the sound in, you can listen to it through handheld radio, and then take it for a walk. I have the transmission running out of my bedroom. I know that I can do my block. And small transmitters work better under certain circumstances for it to be the best it can be. Optimize your transmission. At the end of it all, I feel like people forget to watch the airwaves in a society that maybe does now need to look to D.I.Y, acts of resistance, in community, for the future of our survival. I don't know if we're quite there yet, but it's definitely a discussion, especially being a queer female artist. It's just something I look at on the regular, and I work with the internet a lot in my art as well. So it's, transmission on a broader scale. But I feel like radio is hiding in plain sight, and it's going to be a really important tool of communication and resistance if needed. And it's just nice to, to just keep it up front, keep it in the forefront, so we keep keep it in the discussion. The government is trying to take back the waves on a lot of levels. Like in the US, you're not allowed to be using the VHF frequencies because those airwaves are now being used for emergency purposes. Radio is accessible through community radio or whatever. You need to be licensed, but this is unlicensed. There's lots and lots of interesting communities surrounding radio. In Asheville, I heard about the band D.I.Y. What excited me is I heard they had a van. They drive up to a hill, they would put posters up around town. They would have a concert out of their van. They'd use their van battery, plug into this transmitter, and everybody in Asheville would know to tune in to hear this band play. That was probably the first time I heard of radio being used in a really dynamic way. I got inspired by the use of radios for like guerrilla raves. DJs will set up in a park and you can come and rock out and party with the rave with your radios. It's just a simple act of numbers. The more people that show up with radios, the louder the party. And that's just a collective PA system. I love that concept. The more people, the more radios, the bigger the sound. And this is actually something I've wanted to use. For example, a crew of us are very upset at the anti-abortionists that hang out by the Casa del Popolo. They hang out in the park in front of the church, and they hang out every weekend. I don't know if you've seen them. They carry signs, very gory, pro-life signs. The plan is to show up with the transmitter and surrounding them with annoying noises. One idea was to use baby crying. You sit by people, you sit by the anti-abortionists that are ruining your park and try very hard to ruin their experience. It would be kind of a peaceful yet violent act of Anyways, these are the things that go on in my mind. Peaceful yet violent acts of sound. You're just sitting there with a radio. If 30 people show up with radios, battery radios, and we transmit an annoying sound, and then I started playing with the idea of planting radios in trees. I would like to reclaim the park somehow, just once. I'm so tired of seeing these people that also so clearly hate me, and I don't even really hate them. I don't have hate. I just wish they would leave my park. My park meaning the park I like to eat lunch in sometimes bugs my psychic space. Anyways, these are discussions of how to use guerrilla radio as a form of as a weapon almost. Sound as a weapon.